Welcome to another weekly featured business brought to you by Visibility Impact and your host, James Moffat, where he will gracefully take our featured guest on a personal and business journey and stories that will inspire, educate, and engage you.
Okay, so welcome to another Friday featured business brought to you by Visibility Impact and your host, myself, James Moffat. Today we have our 93rd guest, right? A very special guest and someone that caught my eye and attention some while ago, and I thought I'm eager to know about him. So our 93rd guest is Andre Schneider. I hope I pronounced that right. Good, because I'm terrible with names. So we'll come to Andre soon and we'll learn about his story from childhood to where he is now, any memorable experiences, or which there are lots of, that he wants to share with us, and what he's actually doing now without giving away too much. So before we get going, we normally kick this off with Emily, and Emily is our regular host singer. And she's going to sing a song to us. She's not always live, so this is a privilege because she's normally busy with kids. So she is live today. So this is great. And she's in Switzerland. And she's going to sing a song. So over to Emily. So if you can just introduce kind of the song you're going to sing, and then the spotlight's on you. And then we'll come straight back.
Okay. Well, as we are today, I think the subject is about the airport. This is a song called Fly Me to the Moon. Fly me to the moon, let me play among those stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, in other words,
Okay, so thank you very much, Emily. That was another great song. All right, and now back to Andre. So Andre, you are our 93rd featured business guest. So welcome to the show. And now the floor is yours, and we're going to learn all about, well, not all about you, because we'll be here for another week, but at least an insight into you, your childhood, some memorable experiences, and your journey to get to where you are now. If there's anyone else that wants to join the show as we go through, this is recorded, so anyone that's watching the recording, so welcome, and anyone that joins, I will let them in as we go through. Right, so don't be put off with that, just carry on. So I'm going to put the camera on you, basically, or the spotlight on you, and we're going to go through kind of your childhood. So tell us again, where where are you living at the moment, and where are you originally from?
Okay, first of all, as you all know, my current job is being the director of the airport in Geneva. So I'm also living close to Geneva. I'm not at the airport, a little bit on the other side of the town in a suburb called 𝗬𝗢𝗦𝗧, which is like a 7-kilometer run from the airport, so quite convenient. And I was actually born in Germany, in Konstanz, because my mother is actually German, my father is Swiss. But I have actually passed the significant part of my youth just outside of Bern in a little village, or at this time it was a little village, now it's probably almost a town, called 𝗪𝗓𝗪𝗂, where I grew up. I went to primary school and secondary school, and then I went to the gymnasium in Bern.
Right, let me just kind of pause you there. So, as we know, I'm not Swiss. I'm from the UK, actually from Edinburgh in Scotland. And
is that the UK?
Yes. So I came to Switzerland in 2005 to Bern, funny enough. I lived in Brighton Rhine region, which I guess you know well. So I had to follow a young boys football team. And then we moved out when we had kids. We moved out to 𝗪𝗓𝗪𝗧. So I know I probably pronounce it wrong. My kids are much better. But so from your hometown. So I know it very well because we've been here for the last 6 years. So, and it's changed remarkably since I was here. So if you ever want a trip back here down a memory lane, then come and see us. You're more than welcome.
Okay.
And then where we are was actually a field by the school. So you'll not recognize any of this area because it is completely changed. So anyway, it's not about, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about you. So you are in Geneva, and as we see you in your office.
Yes.
So we're just going to touch quickly on what the office you're in, what you're actually doing, and then kind of backtrack a little bit back to your childhood. So where are you now? Because that looks like a work office.
That is actually that is the office of the Director General of the Geneva Airport. It has already been the office of my predecessor and my predecessor and the pre-predecessor. I mean, you have to know this airport exists for over 100 years, and it had only had, I think, 9 directors.
Wow.
So it's some of them were for a very long period. And actually, the whole equipment here is inherited from my predecessors, because I have to admit, I believe a little bit in sustainability and reuse. So this is absolutely not my style, but nevertheless, I did feel a little bit awkward and bad to just kick everything out to buy new stuff. So I'm living with what was in there. And the other nice thing is it has 2 fronts of windows directly on the runway and on the tarmac, so I can actually see what's happening at the airport and if it's running well. And actually, what you cannot see just beside my normal computer screen, I do have actually a second screen where I can see the hotspots in the terminal to see whether there are queues, people are waiting, and how things are going within the airport.
Oh, excellent. And I know we had a quick look earlier on your windowsill. You've got some replica planes.
Yes.
Or model planes, and then from that window you can obviously see the runway. I guess it's pretty quiet because I can't hear anything in the background.
Look, this is a building built in 68, and you can see even in 68, you actually could build isolation in a way that you cannot hear anything. So for some of the people who are a little bit complaining about the noise, because that's one of our challenges, when we do the meeting here, I do actually point out that there is a way to deal with it. On the other side, we just have on the next building a public terrace for visitors, and it's clear when you're there, and then you can actually hear the planes, and that's much more noisy.
All right. So just tell us kind of the role and responsibility you've got now, because I need to come back to your childhood, but I want to kind of set the scene. So what is your role and responsibility, and kind of who are you at the airport?
It's a good question. I mean, I'm actually leading, or the operational or overall head of the airport, which is really responsible for running an airport, which is done based on a concession given to us by the Swiss federal government. And I do see myself a little bit like the conductor of an orchestra. because at the end, I'm new to this business, so I did learn a lot about it. But I'm here to help people to go beyond what they know already about what they're doing, how they use their instruments, or what their skills, in order to go further. And I'm probably also a little bit the visionary who comes in to questions almost everything and tries to find new ways to go. Naturally, also with input from my colleagues. So that's a little bit my role. And naturally, I'm responsible to my owner, which is the canton of Geneva, and my board, that everything runs well, that we make the money we need to make, that we have survived the COVID crisis and all that stuff.
Right. I know I've flown out many, many times out of Geneva Airport on my way to many different destinations, all fun. And yeah, I mean, I've seen over the years that there are vast improvements that have been made, and it is really a pleasure to go there now. So, but we're not going to talk all about Geneva at the moment. As I said, I want to take you back, but you are basically the CEO that runs 𝗬𝗘𝗔𝗥, which we're going to come on in a minute. Orchestrator, which I love that word because
Conductor.
Conductor. That you are very musical. So you have a musical background. As a child, you started music. So tell us about that.
Okay, I'm coming actually from a home where music wasn't really very high, but nevertheless, I'm also quite. I have a little bit the rebellious side, so I wanted to do things which were perhaps not what my parents would have expected me to do. So I started playing music in the local junior band in my hometown, which is 𝗬𝗢𝗪𝗧, where you also live, at the age of 15, quite some time ago, in the 70s. And I was in parallel at the gymnasium, which is just to get the maturité in Bern. And when it came to select what to do, my father expected me to go to the 𝗬𝗘 Zurich or something like that to become an engineer. And given that I didn't want to do what he wanted, I decided to study music. So I went to Germany, to Munich, to study music, and I was quite lucky because I got a stipend from the 𝗪𝗡𝗀𝗏 Foundation, which allowed me to play with the Berlin Philharmonics and with some great conductors. And then I played with several other big orchestras, amongst them also the Lyce and Festival Orchestra, and people like Sergio Zava and so on. Wow. Until 85, until I was 25. And that was a real great experience. But then I felt I needed to do something else because that wasn't really all I wanted to do in my life. And so I decided to come back to Switzerland to study computer science and mathematics.
Let me just stop you. Let me just stop.
One last point.
Okay.
Just to complete the thing, you remember I did choose to do that because I wanted to show my father that I do different things. The best thing was when I told him that I will not quit and do what he always wanted me to do. He said, "But why do you stop? You have a great job and you earn well your money." So you see, it's not always as easy to displease constantly or please your parents.
Yes. So I'm going to ask you a number of questions here. So you have any siblings?
Yes, I have a brother who is a little bit younger than me.
Right. And did he go off and do what your father wanted him to do, or did he do something different as well?
No, actually, he was more, first of all, he didn't want to do what I did, but he did more do what my father thought he should be doing. So, but at the end, he also developed his own career, his way he felt about it. You know, we're both probably coming from a family. That's probably why we had some tensions with my father, which are all very strong-headed. Mm-hmm. So, but he went a total different way than I did.
Right. Okay. So, tell me, what instrument you played then?
I played the tuba. That's probably the biggest brass instrument, and it's in the classical literature. It starts to appear with Berlioz, which is somewhere in the first half of the 19th century.
Wow. And at what age was it that you were introduced to that, or did you do a different instrument before that?
Frankly, when I joined the junior band, I wanted to play the saxophone. That was my dream.
Yeah, I like
but
that.
I was a little bit too old because normally you go to the junior band when you're 8, 9, 10. So they told me if I start to play the tuba, and frankly, I didn't know what that was, I could immediately start playing and I wouldn't have to wait, and it was fast track. So being a pragmatic person, I choose it. And I started to love it. But frankly, when I started it, I didn't know what I was going to play.
Right. Is it a difficult instrument then?
Frankly, I mean, if you want to play at a very high level with a high quality of execution, every instrument is difficult. Now, every instrument has other difficulties. I think a tuba, the one difficulty is it's a big brass instrument, so you have to work a lot your lungs. It's essentially with your lips, which one doesn't normally very strongly work to control it very fine and stuff like that. But violin is also very difficult. I mean, frankly, there's no easy instrument if you want to play it well.
Right. So are you recorded playing this?
Huh?
Are there any recordings of you playing this?
Yes, they are, but they are under they're my own and not published.
I'd love to see. So, but you must have obviously progressed to a quite a professional stage in the way that you played for big orchestras.
Yes, I would pride myself to say that I was really at a very high level. You have to know, in Germany, orchestras are organized like football clubs. So you have the Super League, you have the second league, you have the regional league, you have the sub-regional league. And I did actually from start play in the Super League.
Wow.
So, but at the end, frankly, I had probably luck and I did work well. I'm I like to do my things, whatever I do, very well. So, yes, I did. That's also why when I quit in '85, I totally stopped playing, because in order to play at the level I used to play, I have to exercise myself like almost 6 hours a day, which you can imagine with the kind of other stuff I did wasn't really fitting into my agenda.
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, we could talk about this for a long time. My son, my eldest son, we have 3 kids. My eldest son is 9. He started 2 years ago on the piano. Now, we want to introduce him to different instruments, and the piano seemed to be one he liked. And he's absolutely gifted. I just think that giving kids the opportunity to find something, and then when they actually start playing, you think, wow, how can they play so like that? I mean, I was like playing When the Saints Go Marching In, like with one hand, thinking that I knew a little bit how to play. And he's playing like the most difficult things with 2 hands, not even looking, crossing hands over. Amazing. So, yeah, I feel for that. And I mean, we want to obviously give our kids the opportunity to play. But yeah, when you talk about Super League, I mean, he's also into football, and he's doing a tryout at the moment for young boys. So something.
Wish him all the best.
Yeah. So you were a young boy supporter then, living in Bern? No,
I must admit, now I'm a little bit interested in clubs and sports, but frankly, at this age, my only thing I was interested in was music, classical music. I was doing also a lot of adaptations of music. I had my own brass quintet, which is 2 trumpets, horn, and trombone. And I made a lot of arrangements for them. I had an international group. We played lots of concerts. I was 999% into music, classical music.
I'm going to check. I'm going to find you somewhere on YouTube. There's going to be something.
No. You know, that was in the mid 70s and early 80s. You know, that's way before any of that happened. I actually was able at my gymnasium. We had one of the first computers where a 64 kilobyte disk, just imagine what 64 kilobytes could hold, was a tumbler of this size, like 1.50 meters round and probably 50 centimeters high. And when you had to program, we did actually already have BASIC. You turned your program 20 times around because you didn't have enough memory to actually write all the instructions. So you came up with very clever tricks to make in one instruction 2 things and stuff like that. So I'm actually a smartphone computer or whatever generation.
Yeah, right. So we're going to get into another conversation soon about that. So then, growing up as a kid, so at school, I mean, did you have any ambitions or desires for the future, what you wanted to do? And was it, I mean, getting into music, I mean, for the periods of time and the profession that you did, was that something that you were looking at when you were a kid, or did that kind of come about by more accident?
Frankly, a very long time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was one of those kids. I went to school, then I went to secondary school, then I went to 𝗬𝗘𝗔𝗥𝗏, then I went to gymnasium. And I did at one stage think about I could become a naval engineer. But frankly, it never worked out. And I must say, when I got into music and got quite quickly to a quite high level, I played also before starting professionally playing. I played on contests. So that was actually almost like a relief to know what to do. Otherwise, I would have just done what all my colleagues would do, which certainly wouldn't have been extremely interesting. So, but otherwise, I was much more interested in things like Boy Scouts, Lego. I'm a big Lego fan. I still am. Actually, you can't see it, but half of my office is full of Lego models of different huge and less huge size. And skiing. So frankly, before I started playing music, I wasn't really clear what I wanted to do.
Okay. I love the Lego bit because, I mean, I think every kid loves Lego. I mean, we've got box loads of Lego. My wife keeps saying we've got to give it to other kids, like that our kids are too old for it. And I said, they're never too old for it. And every time other kids come round to play, they're always playing with the Lego. So I think you can't get rid of it.
We're all eligible to become shareholders.
Yeah, but do you have any? Is there any Legos of planes and things that you have?
Actually, I'm beside being now into planes. I'm also a big fan of sci-fi. So I have the Millennium Falcon. You know, the biggest Lego model existing. Oh, I have actually just beside me. I mean, I'm a motorcycle driver, so I have a huge Lego model of the R1000S. BMW race bike. I have a Batmobile. I have lots of things. I even have a railway. I have the Swiss, you know, the crocodile locomotive in Lego. No, I have a lot of. I mean, and I have several at home. I have also a Bugatti car and a Lamborghini car, all kinds of.
So you, I mean, I guess you're married, and do you have children?
Yes, I'm married and I have 4 children.
Wow. So you...
James, we should take notes on...
No, three is enough. so I guess the kids are a fan of Lego as well.
Partially, but they're now more or less grown out of it. I mean, the youngest one is 17. The oldest one is now 26.
Wow.
The youngest one does some Lego, but it's not his favorite. He is a real smartphone computer games kid. So he is no more into the more tactile stuff like Lego.
Yeah, I like kind of the old-fashioned technologies because I came from kind of similar era, and I love technology and things that you could take apart and put back together again. Nowadays, you just have to replace it because you have no idea how it works. So, I mean, you've got 4 children. So what, you mentioned 17, the youngest, 26, the oldest. So what have you got, boys and girls or?
3 boys, 1 girl.
Right. Where is she, the oldest or middle?
The oldest is the girl, and she is now living with her husband in Montreal.
All right. So are you a grandfather?
No.
But maybe soon to be.
No, I don't think so. And frankly, I'm not pushing anything. I think I want to first get all the kids out of the house and think about further things.
Yeah. So you live in a beautiful place near Geneva on the lake. Is it by the lake?
No, not at all. It's towards the 𝗬𝗢𝗪, which is the other mountain range. You know, Geneva is between 2 mountain ranges. One is the Jura, one is the 𝗬𝗪𝗪. Now we're living outside. I mean, we've chosen to live there because it was a new development with lots of kids. And when we got there, our kids were much younger, and we felt it's good to live somewhere where there are lots of kids, lots of clubs, lots of stuff. So they can find friends and so on.
Yeah. So was this more to do with kind of the jobs that you've had that you ended up in the Geneva region?
Yes, I mean, when I quit music, I wanted to do something else. So as I said, I decided to study computer science and mathematics, which I did at the University of Geneva, because I just recall it's 85. At this time, this was the only university in Geneva, in Switzerland, where you could actually study computer science as first matter. Otherwise, you had to study it as a submatter, which I didn't want to. And so actually, I've worked all over the world, but always somewhere, if it was just to put in my suitcase and take another one away, in Geneva. And I then quickly started, after 2 years studying at the university, I worked for IBM as a systems engineer and a developer for a laboratory in Barcelona. And then a little bit later, I started my PhD at the CERN. We were developing a European supercomputer based on European supercomputer chips for Monte Carlo simulations, which is a big thing you run like on infinity for building new accelerators. And we were really, it was really interesting, because at this time, Switzerland wasn't really able to participate in European research projects. And there, through the CERN, I was able to do so. And we really built the first, we actually beat with this new supercomputer, 𝗘𝗘𝗏, on the speed of execution of Monte Carlo simulations.
Wow. So also
I studied in school about the 𝗘 supercomputer, so with megaflops and all this, it's very interesting what you now share.
And so I did in '93 my PhD on that. I mean, we developed a new language, we developed a new way of parallelizing code for high energy physics, and so I did in '93 my PhD.
Wow.
On that.
So, congratulations on that. So also, CERN is synonymous for inventing the web.
Yes.
So were you around in?
No.
That
I was much more into around the groups of theoretical physics and the computer. I mean, the web was actually developed to better share data between physicists in a great way. So we were already, I was like 2 generations later. I mean, what we started then became crowd computing, which was saying you don't need highly parallel chip-based parallel computers, but what you need is actually lots of powerful CPUs, which could be different workstations, which you just harness in a parallel environment, and you just throw a big program at them, and they just parcel it down and calculate it. So I mean, yes, we did know about that, but I was in another domain of development at the CERN. And today you have, like, for example, for astronomics research, you actually have programs you can install in your computer, and it will use your you can use you can give your CPU power of your workstation to do worldwide parallel computing. So we were a little bit at the beginning of that.
Right, excellent. So you mentioned some other jobs. I mean, on the technology side, so you spent some time in CERN. You were with IBM in the lab, so you went to Barcelona. You were in Barcelona as well.
Yeah, I was actually involved in developing the first client-server softwares on PCs. You know, I have the chance. When I was joining IBM, it was all about mainframes. And we actually, I was involved in the first use of banking teller software on PCs in the client-server environment, based on PS2s, for those who still recall, that's 80s, 90s. And I was developing actually some of this client-server software, which was at this time based on assembly code, PC assembly code, on interrupt because actually the DOS operating system wasn't multitasking. Today we wouldn't even know how an operating system would work without multitasking. We actually did it ourselves, and I was then actually developing software for it. I was developing adapted softwares for different banks throughout the world, like in Turkey, and I was teaching worldwide how to develop for this environment.
Okay, so teaching, I mean, you traveled the world doing that as well?
Yes, I gave classes in Argentina, in a little bit everywhere.
Did you fly out of Geneva?
Yes, or via Zurich, but yes, naturally, yes. As I said, I have in my career...
Bulgaria?
No, not at all. But you know, at this time, that was still behind the
it was
the Iron Curtain. You know, it was
yes.
was still a little bit. You know, one might not recall that, but that was still a little bit back. And then actually, I was asked at IBM, because that was when the mainframes went down, to develop a consulting group, which we did. We worked for multiple companies in Europe. So either we did fixing complicated programs, like, for example, how to replace a mainframe with a parallel database on the AIX Unix system, which they couldn't get to run. And we were also specialized in fixing the year 2000 bug. I mean, I don't know if anyone recalls that.
I remember that.
And I actually, that was my first time I got actually on TV to explain what is the year 2000 bug.
Wow.
And actually they brought that up 2 years ago, 20 years ago, and there were some extracts from what I said. It was actually quite funny to see how times evolved. And then...
have you still got that recording?
Yes, I actually even published it on my LinkedIn profile. You have to dig a little bit through my posts. It's quite far away, but it was a how you say, a TV show on the Swiss French-speaking TV, and they actually came to interview me here to say, what do you think 20 years later about all that? But I did leave IBM before we got to the year 2000, and I joined the World Economic Forum first as a chief technology officer, because at this time I didn't really want to manage people that much, which I had to do, having a consulting group. But then there I became very quickly in charge of first of the IT, then knowledge management, then all the operations. And from 2003 on, I was managing director and chief operating officer of the World Economic Forum, and actually not doing that much IT anymore, but much more creating new events like in China, in Dubai, and running World Economic Forum events in Davos and all over the world.
Wow. So quite a journey from a musician.
Yes, but as I said, you need to try new things from time to time, otherwise life gets really boring. Okay.
You did, lots of work at EPFL, the university in Lausanne.
That comes a little bit later. I left then the World Economic Forum in 2011 after 10 years or 11 years, because I felt I needed to do something new.
Where were you based then?
The headquarters of the World Economic Forum are close to Geneva, in Cologne. But that was a time where I was probably more on the plane than anything else. I had things like flying in overnight to China, having in the morning negotiation with the Chinese government, in the afternoon a press conference, in the morning afterwards meetings with the teams, and then in the afternoon take the plane home to Geneva. So that was kind of my schedule, and that was all over the world.
Wow.
So I felt it was time to do something else, and so when I left the World Economic Forum, I realized that actually no one would hire me. I was such a uncommon profile. So I founded my own consulting company for sustainable development, which I run for 3 years, specialized in sustainable competitiveness, sustainable transport development, and also sustainable infrastructures, which I'm still running some of it. I'm president of World Climate Foundation. I'm still vice president of Global Infrastructure, Basel Foundation, things like that. And after 3 years, someone I knew, which was Patrick Ebischer, which was president for, over close to 20 years of the EPFL, came to see me and saying, don't you want to become a little bit the COO of the EPFL? And even if I had decided I wanted to do something else, that was really interesting. So I joined the EPFL to become the vice president of resources and infrastructure, which is a little bit the COO. And I stayed there, and that was then when I was contacted by a headhunter again to ask me if I wanted to become the director of the airport. And I had to say that was really sounding like something I've never done before. So I said I was interested, and finally I got elected.
So I'm just curious. All of the jobs are quite specialized jobs, and to go from, people study for years to get into kind of these types of roles. And then you've gone from one to another. I mean, obviously been a great success at them. And like, as you said, whatever you do to a professional capacity anyway. And then to be headhunted for something that, I mean, what did they see in you that would be kind of the director, the CEO of Geneva Airport?
You played music for them, correct?
No, not at all. I'm not playing music anymore since '85, so that's forgotten. That's
you didn't sing them a song and play some.
No, and I'm not sure. That might actually have killed my candidacy, but who knows? No, I mean, I don't totally know. They never really told me, but I have some thoughts about it. I mean, number one, you have to know the Geneva Airport is a public institution. So there is a big part where you actually have to deal in a public environment, which and that I've done to a very extensive level for the World Economic Forum and also for the EPFL. It's a lot about improving and streamlining infrastructures, because that's probably the biggest part in an airport, is maintaining and developing and thinking about future infrastructures. Now, this is something I've done also quite heavily through my career. And I think also, aviation is confronted today to really do something to become more sustainable. Now, I have also when I was at the EPFL, I was in charge of sustainability. So I think it was probably also an argument for that. And otherwise, I frankly, I don't know.
So how long have you now been at the airport?
I will be in some days 6 years.
Right. And when you first joined, I mean, was it a handover from the previous person? I mean,
yes.
How did that?
It was foreseen to have quite a long-term handover, but we actually finished that one quite quickly. I mean, I had 2 half-day meetings with my predecessor. We went just through all the open issues, and then I just went through all the meetings, and I just got myself up to date and thought it through and worked through it.
Right. So the person you replaced, they went on to retire or off to another job, or?
He went to retirement.
All right. And now you've been there 6 years, and how long do you plan to be there now?
As you know, my career started quite some time ago, so I will actually reach in 2 years and some months my retirement age. So I think I will sit that one out here.
You also mean 65?
Yep.
No way.
Yes.
I wouldn't have thought you were anywhere near 60.
Anyhow, that's life, but that doesn't mean that I will stop working anything at 65. But nevertheless, here we are in a public institution, so they take it very serious about leaving at retirement age. Mm-hmm. So, and frankly, I would even be ready to stay even longer, because there's a lot of long-term projects which are very important, which I will not be able to see through to the end, but so be it. And then I will probably concentrate more on some of the other stuff I've been doing and I'm still doing.
I have a question. Can I?
Yeah.
Because in America and Europe, there is a huge problem with aging staff, because actually the people that are really able to work, the population is aging.
Yeah.
How you address this? Just maybe shortly, do you keep a special track on this for the airport and what you do?
We have quite an elaborate program on managing our talent and also ensuring that we have the right people at the right moment. But in general, I mean, with the increasing aging populations, we'll have to rediscuss the age you go on retirement, perhaps not in a fixed way like it is today, because it's very, I have colleagues who have wanted to stop at 60, like my brother. He has stopped, he's gone on pre-retirement last year, which is okay. And there are crazy guys like me who would probably work until 75. And I think we need to find the right way, but it has to be done in a way that, because today we do also have problems with people who lose their job between end of 50, beginning of 60, and have troubles finding a job again. So it has to be done in a positive way, but we will need that, because we are running out of capable workforce. And for example, in Switzerland, currently, it is accounted for 150,000 jobs, which we cannot fill at the moment for lack of candidates.
Wow.
So So there will be a shift happening. Now, I would have liked it would have already happened and I could stay longer because I think I'm still full in energy. But I think we will have to go to a way where we have a much more individualized approach where people can stop earlier if they feel like, they can stop halfway, like 50% reduction, whatever they want. I think we need to be a little bit more adaptive.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that also age, we don't want age to be an inhibitor to continuing working, because a lot of people, I mean, as you've expressed, I mean, tons and tons of experience that other people don't necessarily have. So don't lose someone because they're an age, but they still have a lot to offer. And particularly when you don't want to go. So, I mean, if you had to retire, I mean, as you mentioned that you have you did your own consultancy. Could you consult back to the airport if you wanted?
I'm not sure whether I want to do that, but yes. No, I'm having, I mean, one plan is actually I'm working with colleagues in Greece to start an MBA for aviation, where I would be teaching and supporting it. I certainly have some open possibilities to join some boards. You know, in the context of the EPFL, I've also helped grow a convention center. So I think there's lots of things, and let it come. You know, frankly, we'll see. And perhaps I will do consulting to some airports, but perhaps not the Geneva airport. I don't know. Perhaps my colleagues will say, this guy, what are we happy that he leaves now and we can have a decent life. So but if they would ask me, yes, I would certainly consider it.
Well, I mean, to me, I mean, I like your style. I like your background, everything. It would be a pleasure to work with someone like you. Looking at your, I mean, the other activities that you mentioned, I mean, you're the chairman of the Innovations Board of Aviation Research Centre in Switzerland. You're a chairman, I'm just kind of reading these off. You're a chairman of World Climate Foundation.
Yep.
So, I mean, you're a chairman of lots of different things. How do you find time for all of this?
I start early in the morning and then I finish late in the evening, and I do also work weekends. I think it's first of all, when you're a chairman, you're not an operational role. Okay. So you're here to actually give strategic advice. I mean, for example, if I take my role as chairman of World Climate, I'm actually here to consult with the CEO to when he has a question about where to go, how to develop it, to give him my analysis, how that would work or not, what he could be doing. This is not eating infinitely time. It's actually really using cleverly and in a good way your experience you have. So it's not like I mean, I could not do 3 CEO jobs. That would just not work.
Yeah.
But so it's really this balance between things where I'm more into a strategic advisor role, and helping people to develop the right way. And if you take, for example, I have several roles in the context of being the CEO of Geneva Airport. As you said, I'm the chairman of the Aviation Research Center Innovation Board. That's actually a group which works with the universities to define where we think we should do research, and also to look at how to find funding. Now, this is almost like part of my job also. Perhaps some people...
Yeah, so in a way, it's kind of enhancing your job, because being involved in kind of innovation and other areas and sustainability also helps, because, I mean, as you mentioned earlier, airports have to not reinvent themselves, but they have to evolve in the way that they have to look at kind of traditional ways and how to be more sustainable. And
I see it as a clever way of using multitasking. So what you
but it's also somewhere using what I've done in the past to use it in my current situation, bring in some experience, also bring in credibility. You know, I have a track story of multiple years in sustainable development. So it's easier for me to make believe that what we say we do and what we do is done the right way. And I can bring in new ideas. And you know, I fundamentally believe that aviation is necessary because we're living in a globalized world. We don't want to go back where, frankly, our horizon of what we live is like 20 miles around where we live. At least that's not how I see my future. So it will need for further distance transport ways like aviation. And that means we have to make it climate compatible. If we don't, we will be forced to stop using it, and we will then have to live in a very little environment, because cars wouldn't be allowed. it's actually interesting to see there are some applications which show you how far you can get around you where you are in 5 hours with the train. And I can tell you, do that once, you will be astonished to see how limitative this is. And frankly, we will not be able to build that many new high-speed train lines because that's huge investments. That's huge destruction of ground, fertile ground, and it's a lot of emissions also. So I think so. I really believe that I have joined that one because when I left the EPFL, some of my sustainability colleagues have said, "But you're crazy. It's a little bit like you work for, I don't know, a health food company, and you're going to join Philip Morris and produce cigarettes." I said, "No. It's actually, I'm joining the airport because I believe it's necessary and I want to put all my energy in to help even further accelerate this movement to sustainable aviation, which exists already for ages, but it needs to be accelerated."
Exactly. I mean, I completely concur with that. I mean, you cannot stop technology and innovation, and you cannot restrict. I mean, people want to travel, and then the best means of travel and the easiest way, and particularly if you want to go on a long journey, is obviously aviation. But how could you then make aviation better and be more inclined with the climate change and everything else? So, I mean, it is about working with that rather than kind of cutting it off and saying, "Oh, no, we go back to trains only or bicycles or something."
And frankly, we have now worked in our industry to develop roadmaps how we can show over the next 10, 20 years how we will actually decarbonize. So it has really launched and we're working on putting it in place. I mean, here at Geneva Airport, we will be fully decarbonized in 37, things like that. So it's really, it has triggered that. And I must admit, and that might be my elder age, I would not like to live in a society where at the end the politicians say whether I'm allowed to eat that or to do this and that. Now that I have to be responsible towards the environment, to plenty of things, I totally agree, and I want to be. But I don't want to live in a world where everything is told to me how to do it. That was a little bit how it was when I was a young kid in my village of 𝗬𝗢𝗪𝗧, because it was all structured. And that was when I said, I want to leave here because I can't live in such a world.
I've noticed that living here. I've noticed it is very much like that.
But you haven't really seen how it was, because when it was much smaller, and you were like me, the son of a person which was quite known in the village, you couldn't do anything without all the people looking at it and telling your parents, and frankly, it was just not livable.
Do you still have family here?
I used to have my father and mother who lived in 𝗬𝗢𝗪𝗧. Now my father is dead already almost 10 years. And my mother then left 𝗬𝗢𝗪𝗧 to go into a old person's home in Bern, and she's now dead too. So I don't have direct family anymore in 𝗬𝗢𝗪𝗧. My brother lives close to Solothurn, and I have still some other family around.
Okay, so if you're ever over here, let me know, and then I'll show you around kind of what's changed. You'll see what's changed. But as I said, we live on what used to be farmland.
Yeah. It has. I mean, I've been from time to time. I travel through, and it has worked. It used to be a quite self-centric little village, and now it has become a little bit like the dormitory for Bern, and that has created a lot of buildings and stuff and so on. But which is okay. I mean, why not?
I think.
It was a pleasure to meet you. We'll watch the recording and we keep in touch. It's very interesting. Very nice.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Right. I mean, exactly what you said. I mean, the thing is, because it's been kind of a suburb of Bern, a lot of people from Bern now have moved here because they've developed a lot. So it's maybe the mentality is slightly different to what it was when you were here.
I can imagine, but probably it has also helped to create a little bit more of diversity. When I was a young kid there, it was like the farmers of the region, the small businesses owners of the region, and some of the, more important people. And it was a very close-knit environment. And I hope at least that with this opening up, it has brought in a little bit more diversity. And I hope with that one also a little bit more of openness to being different than others.
Yeah, I think I brought diversity because mein Deutsch is nicht so good. And I will say, oh, that's the English guy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, I've got involved in a lot of things, but people kind of know me because I'm not the one that's speaking Swiss German. So with languages, talking about languages, because you're in Geneva now, obviously, and you've lived in Barcelona, you've lived in obviously Germany where you were born, and a lot of time in Bern, so Swiss German. So what languages do you speak?
Fluently, I do. I feel like almost my home or my very natural languages are English, French, German, and Swiss German. I can write, read, speak fluently in all those languages. I learned a little bit of Catalan when I was in Barcelona, but frankly, that's so far away, I've all forgotten yet. And to be absolutely clear, I was really bad at school in languages.
Really?
I was the worst student in my class in French.
I think I am.
But I had a very good maturity because I was very good in anything else. And when I had to tell my French teacher that finally I went to Geneva to study at the Geneva University, he couldn't believe it. I mean, it was like, so I have to work to learn languages, but the ones which I've now learned, which are, as I said, German, French, English, and Swiss German, I feel very comfortable. And as I said, I had to do through my life TV interviews, radio interviews, speeches in all those 4 languages, and I feel very comfortable to do so.
Excellent. I admire you for that. I mean, my kids are not like me. I mean, I suck with languages, but I mean, my wife's Brazilian, so they speak Brazilian Portuguese, Swiss German, High German, English, and they're learning now French at school. So way ahead of me.
But look at me, I'm an example. Even if you suck in languages, you can actually learn it.
Well, maybe I need to spend some time with you and you need to teach me how you learn. Right?
It's very simple. You know how I learned French?
No.
I came to Geneva. I was really terrible in French. And, it was very funny, it was a time where you didn't have actually books with the classes. So I was going to lots of math classes, which was just like 3 hours, a professor writing formulas on the blackboard. And I was known for 2 things. I wrote the best summaries of it. Especially the formulas, the French text around it. When I saw some, because I discovered years later that there were photocopies which were handed out to new students as like the book for the class.
Wow.
So that was one thing. So I could see how bad my French was at the beginning. And the second thing, I was known to actually correct myself, the professor, that he was writing an error in his formula, which was recalled to me like 1 year ago with an old friend with whom I was at school. He said, we could never believe that this guy was new here, was just going saying, Mr. Professor here, this is not right. Your formula is wrong. You have to rewrite it. So.
Well, but I think that comes from kind of your logical mind and kind of the way that you think. And also
try to understand things to the detail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm sure the professor did fully understand it, but, writing it the X time, he just screwed something up. It wasn't really that he wasn't good at that. And he had a good laugh about that one, by the way. Yeah. But nevertheless, so that's a little bit my mindset, yes.
Yeah. I always had troubles with 𝗘𝗔𝗖𝗛 and 𝗏. Right? I thought, why have 3 for the same thing? Just call it like in English, the.
Yeah, but you take French, you have 2. So between English, where you have 1, French, you have 2, and German, you have 3.
Yeah.
It's welcome to the troubles.
Okay, so I just want to talk a bit about sports. I mean, I know we talk behind the scenes about motorbiking. So when did you start kind of becoming a motorbike enthusiast?
Actually, at the age of 25, when I came to Geneva, I don't know why. I decided I wanted to drive a motorbike. So I took the class, and in Switzerland, you have to first do an exam to run with the small ones. Mm-hmm. Then you have to run 2 years without accidents. And then you have to do a new exam for a bigger one. So I did all that. And and then I started to like to go to mountains, which I quit a little bit. And I have to say, in Geneva, traffic is really a nightmare. and public transport doesn't work always as nicely as you would. So being in a motorbike is quite handy.
So when I learned a motorbike as well in the UK back in the day, where you just get a 125, and
same thing for me.
Yeah, and then when you pass your test in those days, you can have any bike you wanted.
No,
it was only later that they said, no, if you went from 125, you can go to maximum 250. Then you have to do another test to a 500 and so on. So then I went from a 125 to a big bike. So kind of, what did you go? I mean, kind of what bikes have you had, and do you still have a bike?
Yes, I mean, I started with which still exists, is the Honda 125. You know, the CT or CRT or whatever.
Yeah,
the little thing. I mean, it's quite nice. Huh? And then I actually moved on to a bigger bike. In Switzerland, you actually had to do an exam. I went to a Shadow 600, Honda Shadow 600.
Nice.
Where I discovered actually that those bikes with the feet ahead are really bad, because if it's rain, you're wet all over. Then I actually, to be a little bit more protected, I spent some time on the BMW, you know, the one which is with the cover.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which was okay, but it's still a scooter, and frankly, that's not driving a motorcycle. So finally, in the beginning, in 2006, I wanted to buy a flat twin BMW. First of all, I like the technology. It's really a great technology. So I had to do some work on my wife, because she was happy that I had this roof thing, because it has much better protection than any normal bike. And so I had to convince her that I will not kill myself. And I never had really any bad accident with a motorbike. Touch wood. So I bought the 1200 RT, a road bike, and I've been running that one since then. And I actually just upgraded it last spring to the 2021 model, which is the same model with a little bit bigger engine. And in the 2006 model, it didn't have any active cooling system, which has naturally quite heavily limited its horsepowers. And now the new one has water cooling, so I have much more power. And it comes with a great TFT screen, 13-inch TFT screen, wow, and all that stuff. So it's a mix between my technology craziness and a great bike.
So great for touring. So
yes,
you told me that you've just had some holidays and you spent a week touring around Switzerland.
Yes, actually, I did a 5-day tour in Swiss and Italian and French Alps. I did 16, how you call that one?
Passes.
16 passes. I went from Geneva to Chamonix, and then I went back over the Alps to the Valais. Then I went to via the Simplon and to Locarno, and then up to St. Moritz. I went to the highest available Alp pass in Europe for motorbikers, which is the Stelvio, which is almost at the limit between Austria and Italy. And then I went back and I did like 35,000 meters of ups and downs, which was really a great tour. It took me 5 days. It was really excellent. It was really great. So
you went on your own or in a group?
No, first of all, I don't like to drive in groups, because I like to drive at the speed I like. Mm-hmm. I don't want to take risks. You know, I'm a little bit too old to take unnecessary risks. I want to have fun. So I go alone. I just organize hotels on the way. And last year when I went on the tour, my wife actually followed me in the car, because she doesn't want to be a passenger on the motorbike. But this year we had some practical issues, so she couldn't follow. So we tried to find a way that we profit a little bit together, and I still get my motorbike tour.
Yeah. You need a sidecar like Wallace and Gromit.
I don't think she would like that one either. You know, she's scared of motorbikes. And you know, I know when I first rode on a motorbike with a friend, I was super scared, and I know that's no good experience. So if you have no fun, you shouldn't be forced to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I am a terrible passenger. Being on the back of a bike, I hate it. But riding the bike, because you're concentrating on so many different things and you're in control, or trying to be in control, then it is much more fun.
Yeah.
But I like you. I used to go with a lot because I used to have a Triumph motorbike, and I used to go on the Triumph events around Switzerland. But then a lot of them are crazy and they go super fast. And
Yeah.
like you, I want to go at my pace. I want to stop when I want to stop. I want to admire that view when I see it, and maybe stop the bike and look at the view and maybe
Absolutely.
hang around for a while.
No. I mean, for me, it's and actually, when it happened to me, I was going over the 𝗬𝗢𝗥 and the 𝗘𝗔𝗖𝗛𝗪, and there was a big Harley-Davidson biker group from Germany. And when they came, I mean, I was leaving a little bit before them from the 𝗬𝗢𝗥 to drive down to 𝗘𝗔𝗖𝗛. When they came after me, I just pulled to the side and let them go by. Frankly, that's just not my thing, and it's too much of testosterone show off, frankly, which comes with a lot of risks, and it's not fun anymore for me.
Yeah. Now you're a biker like me. Then I like the same. I like to enjoy and not. Although sometimes you like the thrill and the adrenaline rush, but in a safe way, not like being crazy round corners that you can't see round the bend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Overtaking people when it is dangerous to do so.
Yeah.
So now I love that. Also, we probably passed because we were coming from Italy last week, and we were coming through the Simplon Pass, and we went over that way down to Brig to get the train and to go that way. So we passed loads of bikers, individuals and groups. But that is a beautiful pass. I love that one.
But there are some real, I mean, the Simplon is almost like a highway up in the mountains.
Yeah.
It's a little bit better on the Italian side, but you know, there are others like the 𝗬𝗢𝗥 or, as I said, the Stelvio. It has like 50 curves going up there, and it ends at 2,750 meters. There are really some real nice ones. So I have over the last 2 years made probably all the nice ones now. So I'm thinking about what I'm going to do next year.
So you don't take a tent on the bike and then go.
No. You know, at my age, I like a little bit of comfort. So I don't take 5-star hotels, but I take a nice hotel. So when I come and arrive, I can first take a nice shower because you have been sweating in your equipment and all that stuff. And then I go to a nice restaurant in the evening, and the next morning I get up slowly and I have a nice breakfast, and then I leave again. I think that's it's not extremely expensive, but it's nice. You sleep well, you're well recovered. I think that's no.
I think I'll have to go with you one day. I mean, I don't have a bike anymore, but you can hire them for a weekend.
Yes, you can.
Prior to getting a bike, I mean, I didn't know which one to get. So I had Ducati Monsters and kind of all sorts of different bikes, and took them for the whole weekend. The thing is, if you hired it on Saturday, because you couldn't bring it back on Saturday, you ended up getting a bonus day or Sunday. So it always worked well. So anyway, enough about bikes. We'll be talking all day about bikes, but I mean, Switzerland is a beautiful place for biking. So
I would say I mean, even Italy, the northern part of Italy, Austria, but also France. You know, you have lots of nice tours going down towards the south through the French Alps and then the Maritime Alps. There's lots of things to be done, no?
So you have navigation on the bike?
Yep. Oh, I mean, it is a technological showcase. It has navigation. It has a fully electronically steered engine, and also brake and acceleration system. So I can actually put it on rain mode. So it will not brake too much. It will not accelerate too much. And it does also have a speedometer where I can actually prefix the speed. And if I run on the highway, I actually have a radar on it. So I can say I want to be never closer than that. And it does just control my speed like that.
Excellent. Did you ask for all these extras for it?
You know, I'm a little bit a geek, you know, having done some technology. Yes, you know, BMWs, if you don't get all the extras, you get a bare bone motorcycle. So it even has a special button, emergency button with satellite uplink. So if you fall, or if your bike, you can push the button, or if your bike takes a hard fall, it will actually automatically alert security systems. It will also transmit your GPS data. So you can be found very quickly.
Yeah, you could be a sponsor or a salesperson for BMW bikes then.
Look, if you go on the internet and you look a little bit about the best road bike, you will see that the model I've bought is very highly ranked. It's a little bit expensive, but it's very highly ranked.
Yeah. I mean, a great bike for the passes, because you need that power to get up the mountains.
But even for normal driving, you know, it's very comfortable. It's just fun. And for me, it's like in the morning when I come to the office, in the evening when I go home, and I drive the whole winter through, except if there's really snow on the road. For me, it's a moment of freedom.
So this is your day-to-day bike, I mean, for work,
yes.
Everything?
It's my bike for everything, yes.
All right. And there's no problem, I mean, coming to work on the bike, you have parking there and everything?
I must say, I have rented my own parking lot, like for a car. Mm-hmm. Because I always felt it's not totally fair if, I've always worked for companies where you have a mobility plan. So you have to pay your parking lot and stuff like that. And I always felt it's good, even if you have just a motorbike, to have that. So I have my own parking lot. So no problem. I have my parking lot. I pay for it. And it's quite nice.
Yeah, so I just I know it's late Friday afternoon and it is a beautiful weather outside. And I know you like skiing, but it's not the skiing season.
No.
And you're not a fan on swimming, so you're not going to swim in the lake.
No.
But I mean, we need to conclude. Are you biking this weekend?
First of all, the weekend will be some of my family chores. So we do shopping once a week. Besides some stuff like milk and so on, which we order directly. So I will do tomorrow my shopping tour. I mean, first I will define tonight with my family what are going to be the menus for all the evenings for the next week. Then we will do that. And mostly I'm the cook of the family.
Oh, wow.
So I will do that too. And for the rest, normally I would go on Saturday. I do some personal training. I do CrossFit, like boxing, weights, and cardio training with a personal trainer. But currently we're on vacation. So still this week, there will be not one. It will only start over next week. So on Saturday, that's also my day. And typically some days it's my lay down, watch some nice series, which I haven't had time to look, or things like that. Sure. And I might do a tour on the motorbike, but currently it's a little bit too hot because, I put on my bike vest and so on. And if it's 30 degrees outside, it's especially if you drive through cities and with stoplights, it's not when you run, then it's fine. But when you're in front of stoplights and your motorcycle heats from the bottom and the sun heats from the top, it's a little bit less fun.
Yeah, I find that it can get extremely hot. But I used to go in a lot of leathers and things, and I didn't want to take everything off just because it's hot. I still wanted that protection. So it can be hot when you're not moving. But I do
actually have a summer motorbike vest, which is actually built of some kind of. It's like it actually lets all the air through. It's not good if it rains a lot because it lets also the rain go through. But it has it's very sturdy material, so it actually gives you full protection.
Like Kevlar or something.
No, it's almost like a mesh.
All right.
Mesh based on special material. So it protects you, but it lets all the wind go through. So when you run, it's actually quite comfortable.
Okay. So if you mentioned that if it's raining or if it's the winter, you still go to work on your bike?
Yes, absolutely.
So you're not a fair weather biker?
Nope, never been.
Right. Okay. I'm more of the fair weather one. I just go when it's a nice day. If it rains, then
look, it's too complicated in Geneva in the winter around the time I come to the office, there's a lot of traffic. And with the bike, I can just get around it. With a car, I would just be always stuck. So
on a quiet day at the airport, you've not got your bike and gone on the runway and just to have
not allowed. You have to. I mean, first of all, to run on the tarmac side, you have to have a special driver's license, which I do have, because there are other rules. Like, for example, airplanes have always priority.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to do that. And secondly, you can only go with vehicles which have been accepted to drive on the other side.
Okay.
And normally we don't let motorbikes to go on the runway.
Okay. So even though that you are the CEO of the airport, do you have access to all areas, or are there still places that you are not allowed to go as well?
I would say at the end, I could probably go everywhere, but I don't. And you know, there are also places which don't belong to us, which are used by companies working here, where naturally I can't go either, or I shouldn't go either.
Okay. So in your 6 years that you've been there, so has it been fun, enjoyable? Have you achieved kind of the goals and the challenges that were faced at the beginning?
Let's put it this way. Yes, I think we have achieved some things, but then it was quite a rocky ride. Just to give you an impression, when I joined in September 2016, almost immediately afterwards, we had huge problems with the security controls because my colleagues had mismanaged that. So we had a lot. Then we had some other big challenges. And now I have been managing the airport through the COVID, where we had like 70% less traffic, which means also 70% less income, dealing with what you do with the people and stuff like that. So I would say we have advanced well, despite all that problems, but it has been very rocky ride, which I do like. I mean, I'm not saying I'm complaining at all, but it has been interesting.
But then you have to be creative in a way. Like, if we're not doing business with planes at the airport, what can we do? Because we have this real estate that we need to maintain, and we need to not just let it disappear, because I guess that you own the real estate, as in the land, and maybe the shops and everything, that they pay a rent to you or something. I mean,
yeah. That's true. But actually, we don't own the land. We actually rent it also from the state. But it's true. I mean, we did actually launch, we know we need to redo the main terminal because it has been built in '68 and it's really way outdated. And we did actually launch that last summer. So we had to convince our board that we will go for an important investment. We've also finished the East Wing, which is also a major investment. And we had lots of discussions. We also had, we had lots of discussion with the board on whether we should lay off lots of people or not. We decided not to do it. And if you look around, lots of airports have now big troubles because they laid off a lot of people and can't hire them. We're not confronted with that problem. So I'm quite happy. But it's true, during the 2 years, it was a tough fight with the board because they wanted to just get rid of it. Now, most of them come back to me and saying I was right and I did the right thing. But
Excellent.
It was not always easy to defend. And you're never sure when you do such things whether you are in the end right.
No, exactly. So have you got any main challenges ahead now? I mean, you mentioned about that there's some modernization still needed at the airport.
I mean, the main challenges is we have to finish until autumn next year the total rework of our baggage sorting system, because there's a new standard coming in and we have to finish that. And we're running a little bit late due to the COVID crisis and some other issues. We had to launch the redo of the whole terminal on the same spot as is the terminal. I just let you imagine how that goes. And that's launched too. And we have, I mean, as I said, we have lots of projects where it's a lot of things to be done. And also, naturally, we're working on the culture, on things like that. So I have to say we are, even when I go on retirement, my colleagues will have plenty of things to do. That will not stop at all.
Yeah, they'll be calling you up, asking for help.
We'll see that one. I don't believe that. And I don't hope that they will need that because they're really good. So
have you got anyone kind of in the frame that would be a good replacement when you leave?
Frankly, I don't feel like a monarch who defines his own next level. So this is in the hands of the board. They figure out what they want. They do it. I don't want to get involved in that.
So I just going back to the board. I mean, the board, when a headhunter came to you and said, like, we want you for the CEO position at Geneva Airport, and then how did the board take that and thought, well, what's he know about airports and aviation? Well, nothing. So how did that, I mean, How did that work?
I don't know. Again, I mean, I have some knowledge of parts of the business because I've been a heavy user. But at the end, you know, they also wanted to, I mean, again, for the next one, I did give them some recommendations, and I had said you need to look less at hard skills and more at soft skills.
Mm-hmm.
Hard skills can be learned. I've learned about this business, and I would pretend I don't know it too badly. Yeah. So, so don't get too much hung up, because, you know, how do you want to find a future CEO of a Swiss airport who knows Switzerland, who is from Switzerland, when there are only 2 real Swiss airports? Because the Basel airport is actually in France and running under French regulation. That doesn't exist.
Exactly. I mean, I love Zurich Airport as well. I mean, from what they've done there, it's fantastic. So they did much earlier. They started really in early 2000 or even end 1990s to redo. I think we have to race a little bit to catch up, but we're working on it. So when you discuss kind of improvements and technologies and innovation for airports, do you speak with Zurich Airport and the CEO and others there, or is it kind of you do your own thing?
First of all, airports are extremely connected. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm actually also a member of the board of the European airports. So we have a lot of working groups which exchange not only with Zurich, but with all other airports. We have a lot of relations with Zurich. We look what they do. We work much more, even closer to them on lobbying towards the Swiss government, because we are both related to Swiss regulation. And we go and look everywhere else. But then you have to understand each airport has its own business model. Zurich is a hub. We're a point-to-point airport, meaning we have only flights going from Geneva somewhere or coming to Geneva. In Zurich, there's lots of people flying into Zurich to actually take a connecting flight to go somewhere else. We have we are much closer to the city than Zurich. We have much less real estate than they have. We have a much smaller space. We are closer to the city, which also brings more issues with our neighbors about noise and so on. So yes, we look around, but we also need to adapt that to our own needs, because they are not the same.
Yeah. And the future of aviation is changing. So with technology as well advancing, we never know. I mean, traditional planes as they are could be a thing of the past. We don't know yet. So that's also something to look at. So do you look at, I mean, kind of any programs and innovation and startups and technologies and think that aviation is going to...
Absolutely. I mean, just to come back to the new types of motorization for planes will not happen much earlier than 2040, because we are a very highly regulated and very safe environment. So until you have a new motorization which is fully certified, that will take some time. But we're constantly looking at it, and we're planning until 2040 and even further. So we're already looking at what would that mean in changes of infrastructure if we have new motorizations. But, you know, the next level will actually be next generation planes, which reduce by almost 15% CO2 emissions and up to 40% noise, which are already happening. These are the NEOs of this world and some others. And we're facilitating that and even supporting financially that. The next level will be sustainable aviation fuel, which is going to come. We'll see that one happening from now on, and really on a bigger scale from 2025 and to a higher and higher level. So that will not require airplanes to change. It's just a change of the fuel we're using. And so we will see a lot of changes, and we're looking at that. For example, our plan is to electrify all the vehicles on the tarmac. We have already quite a high percentage of them. So we have today, if I recall well, more loading stations at the airport than for the rest of the city and things like that. So we're working on that. We're working to increase the number of people coming to the planes with public transport. We have already 50% of our passengers coming in public transport. We're paying buses which work earlier in the city of Geneva and things like that. We're constantly thinking about those things and adding innovations and adding that to the planning, thinking about what kind of new ways we have to do the business. No, it's a constant evolution.
So is the company, I mean, is the business growing? I mean, you talked about, I mean, a lot of airports let people go and now they have this kind of hiring problem and maybe baggage handling problem as well because the staff has gone. And the fact that you didn't do that, do you see that the airport is now growing in business?
Oh, we're currently growing because we're coming out of the limitations of the COVID crisis.
Mm-hmm.
We're still not fully back on before COVID. But already before the COVID crisis, we are a very mature airport. So we have a very high connectivity. So we foresee a very low level of growth because just simply we will be continuing growing a little bit with the increase of population around us and with the increase of the GDP. Which means 1% max or 1.25% growth. So okay. We don't see much more. We haven't seen for the last 2 years before the crisis an increase in aircraft movements because the planes are just fuller or bigger planes. So we see. I think we have reached here in the region, also with the wealth of the people here in the region, a certain level of maturity, which will not allow for huge growth rates like we had in the past. Okay. And we have already been orienting the company to go towards that.
So airlines, which one is kind of your best customer?
They're all our best customer because without an airline, we will not have connectivity. On the other side, airlines without an airport, they would not know where to land, so they wouldn't have any passengers. So at the end, we clearly like airlines with whom we have a partnership, collaboration, where we can discuss our challenges and work together to find the best solutions. And currently, I mean, our two main airlines are EasyJet and Swiss. And we have an excellent relationship with them. We can very openly discuss of most of the things. We integrate them also in our thoughts about future infrastructure evolution. So we can take also in account what they see as needs. So I think we are quite happy, but we believe that we are part of an ecosystem and we have to make it work together. Otherwise it will just not work.
Absolutely. I mean, I favor EasyJet in a lot of places. I mean, I used them kind of when they were very young and just starting out, and I've seen the changes. And yeah, it's still for me a great service and great planes. So anyway, we kind of need to wrap this up now. I want to let you get on. As I said, this recording, I'll send you a copy of it.
Thank you.
Later, and then you can share it. And definitely with people that want to learn a bit more about you and your background, which is really fascinating. So I welcome you and thank you, should I say, for being our 93rd guest.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, a great pleasure. I mean, we've had lots of different and colorful and diverse kind of guests, and you're definitely one of them. And I love your story. I love what you're doing. I love your attitude to life and sustainability in particular. And I feel kind of in your story, like some of it in me in the way, and maybe others of a similar age of kind of what we've gone through, and that you still have that youthful outlook on life with the biking and all the other things that you do. So have you got anything that you want to kind of close with? Any closing remarks or?
I think no, really. I mean, what? I mean, first of all, thank you for having me and giving me an opportunity to share a little bit some of that. And for me, really, the reason also to participate is to further share that I hope we will be able to create together a society where we will not start to put up a lot of things which we are no more allowed to do, but we work more on a way to make them in a way that they are compatible with what is necessary now and in the future. And frankly, if any one of you has questions or recommendations or stuff like that, don't hesitate to share them with me. You can see on the LinkedIn profile where you actually promoted this event. There's also a link to my LinkedIn profile, and I tend to respond quite quickly. So I'm interested to hear from you, especially those who are users of the airport. I mean, we want to be a good airport and appreciate it because it's a nice airport. It's a good experience. And clearly we know we still have a lot to do to improve that.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that. And definitely, I mean, there has been 92 other guests. So we do have a group. So you're more than welcome to connect to those. And I mean, as I said, the link of the recording would be available. So people that haven't seen it can catch up on it.
Yeah.
And definitely start connecting with some of the people. I mean, like Boyan that was on earlier, and Paul that's on now, and others, because it just kind of grows that network. And a lot of us live in Switzerland, and I mean, we have Emily that could come and sing at the airport if you wanted. I mean, lots of different things. So I mean, it's all about connecting with one another. Yeah. And sharing the journeys, because we all do have a lot in common, even though we don't think we do. Once you start hearing people's stories, then that really starts to resonate. So on that note, I thank you very much once again. I wish you a wonderful weekend.
Same to you too.
And yeah, safe travels on the bike. And if you're ever over this way, definitely connect with me, and you're more than welcome to come round.
We'll let you know.
Right. And it'd be great to see you. One other thing, I mean, our kids love planes. Is this still kind of like a guided tours of airports for children?
Let me know and we'll organize something. Yes, there are. And frankly, we have opened a wonderful terrace now where you can actually watch the planes also. So let me know if you want to come, and we'll...
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then meet you actually in person. Yeah. So once again, thank you for being a great guest.
Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Wow. That was another featured business brought to you by Visibility Impact. If you'd like to be our next featured guest, or learn how James Moffat can help you leverage on the art and power of interactive storytelling for your business, reach out and schedule a call now.